Alright guys, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about the World Trade Center Public Square redevelopment renovation project that never happened. This was scheduled to take place in the mid-1990s. It would have really altered the lower plaza look of the World Trade Center complex, and I'm going to be discussing the history of it, going over the renderings, and talking about would this really change what happened on September 11th if this renovation was in place. This originally started back in 1992. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, owner of the World Trade Center, commissioned Davis Brody and Associates to develop a master plan for the redevelopment of the center's public spaces. The public spaces of the World Trade Center complex included the large open area plaza plus 500,000 square feet of interior retail and circulation space on 4 different levels. In 1994, a schematic design was developed to better define the architectural components of the master plan. These components included a monumental screen covering the existing plaza, new plaza structures adding restaurants and retail space and providing new access to the concourse level below, a new street-level retail space along the center's perimeter, and a new public park surrounding the complex. A major feature of the redevelopment project, the plaza screen, was designed to accomplish the following tasks. Number 1, visually define and unify a 3-dimensional multi-purpose outdoor space. Number 2, meditate the strong crosswinds created by the Twin Towers. Number 3, to serve as a staging element for temporary plaza events hung with support cables from the adjacent towers, and the plaza screen would require no additional vertical supports on the tower or concourse level. Visible from well outside the immediate vicinity, the support cables would serve as a symbol of the new World Trade Center. Another principal feature of the center's redevelopment is the crescent-shaped North Plaza building. The fully glazed structure would contain dining and interior circulation space, along with the northern edge of the open plaza. The design successfully creates an appropriately scaled focal point of the plaza as it provides a single identity to the various tenants and functions of the building. So guys, to summarize all of that, what they wanted to do is they wanted to really bring together the entire World Trade Center complex, and you can see in the several different renderings what it would possibly look like. Now, when it comes to the events of September 11th, would this have changed, much at all when it comes to that morning? And I think we can all say it would have slightly changed it, yes. And I'm not going to get into too much detail, but obviously with that giant glass roof being located right under them, that would not have been a pretty picture what would have unfolded in between the towers being hit and them collapsing. It would not have been good, let's just say that. But overall, you can see the interior of it. It looks like some type of cable structure. This ended up not happening, and I would say it's definitely for the better. To me, this really clutters the entire World Trade Center complex, and especially the Twin Towers. Like when you're walking into the building, it almost seems like it's completely unnecessary. Plus the entire cable system. That type of architecture was really big in the 80s and the 90s, using systems like that, like with suspension ceilings. It really went away in the early 2000s, and obviously today, that type of technology with that roof system would be considered completely obsolete. And I mean, if the Twin Towers still existed and this renovation actually went through, all of the cable supports, to me, would have been removed very quickly because it's just such an ugly look. You can see those cables suspending like onto the Twin Towers to hold up the roof and the entire structure of where it would be located. So honestly, it's an interesting design, but it is pretty ugly. It does remind me of something when it comes to a stadium. There was an Olympic stadium. It's actually remarkable. It's one of the biggest stadiums that was ever built at the time. It was $1 billion project. Of course, at the time in the 70s, it didn't cost $1 billion, but now, actually, you know what? I think it did cost $1.1 billion in 1973. I'm talking about Olympic Stadium. And they tried to use a similar design with their roof where there would be cables. Their roof was retractable, so they were trying to bring it up with a cable system, and the thing completely broke within about 4 years, and they had to totally scrap it. and it was a retractable roof no more. It was just closed 100% of the time. So you can kind of get the idea, 70s, 80s, 90s, that the type of suspension cables holding up the roof. I think, again, it looks pretty ugly. It looks completely outdated, but that was a plan. And then I do have some other things I want to talk about, just going over some earlier models of the Twin Towers. You can see I always find it fascinating. That's actually an early photo of where the original Twin Towers, where their parts were coming in off the docks. That had to have been like the late 60s. And then that's a very early photo of both the Twin Towers on the left being constructed right there. Really the birth of both of them. And I do also want to talk about the waterfalls, which is the memorial site. You know, a lot of people like them. They are very peaceful. They look nice. I love waterfalls and things like that. But there were a lot of different entries. They allowed people to give their design on what the site should look like. And there are several different designs, including this interesting one right here. You can take a look at it. Apparently, that was going to have nuclear energy inside of it, and it was going to be used to power all of New York City. So that's a very interesting design, I thought. But certainly when it comes to like commemorating and an actual memorial, kind of strange. And then you can see the stepping stone to World Trade Center. I did a video on this. Yeah, to me, the way the stepping stone model looks, or if you want to call it a staircase, to me, it's a flawed design, especially when it comes to a 2 World Trade Center, because if you're going to have a staircase design, the base of it has to be so fat to support the actual staircase and to have it, create a type of look like that. I just really don't like it. I think the base of it is way too fat to be a skyscraper personally, but that was the design that they went to. There was an original design that was a diamond shape. Then they went to that design, and now they've gone back to the diamond shape, but we don't even know if 2 World Trade Center is even going to get built at this point. But I'm just saying, they're back onto the diamond shape. And then when it comes to the Twin Towers too, so this was Donald Trump's potential plan, you can see, so when the Twin Towers fell, their base walls were still remaining, and you can see in all the rubble photos, things like that, the base walls are still up. If they built the Twin Towers again, they would have been able to potentially have a memorial right next to each of them with the base walls, and you can see a bunch of flags going around in a circle, but I do think that would be a very cluttered look and kind of really not the right place to do the memorial right in front of the original, or right in front of the new Twin Towers, because those were going to be the exact same as the original Twin Towers. They were just going to be rebuilt a little bit taller, but that ended up not happening. But I thought that was something interesting that I hadn't seen before. But guys, that's just going to do it for this video on the potential renovation that never happened in the mid-1990s. I think at this point, if the Twin Towers, let's say they're still around today, I'm guessing all of those cables would have been taken down probably in like the early 2000s. It's just such an outdated design, and they probably would have removed that cable roof altogether and done something differently there. I do think that it's a good idea they did not do this renovation, because it would have made the entire plaza too crowded. You also have to think what would have happened on September 11th when it comes to those cables and people trying to exit the towers. That would have been, that's like a not good at all. And then when it comes to, my prediction on if this renovation would have happened in the mid-1990s, what would the structure potentially look like after it collapsed? The entire renovation would have been destroyed, obviously. I don't think there would be a single thing remaining if it had been built in the 90s. And then you have both the towers collapsing on top of the renovation. Yeah, there's just no way it would have survived. But really, this is the only main renovation I could see for the Twin Towers. I do think possibly in the mid-2000s, we would probably see, if the Twin Towers were still up, another potential redevelopment plan for them. They would be getting more obsolete at that point when it comes to skyscrapers and what they tend to look like. I mean, even if you compare the new One World Trade Center to them with the glass design and everything, it's just a completely different exterior. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.